welcome to Product Data Weekly. So this is a podcast that we wanted to share with you. Ben and I spend our life talking about product data operations. So we wanted to share with you some of the frameworks, ideas, and strategies that we use and what we see in the market and in everyday product data operations.
Yeah, it's really good to be finally doing this, Claire. Just echoing what you said. I think we spend most of our life talking about these topics. I think for me, it's as well that a lot of the market narratives just seems to be framed around systems and solutions in this space. So we want to kind of turn that on its head, right? So we're going to, we think that product data is more about operations and processes and things than it is actually about the underlying technology that you use around it. So that's what we're really going to focus our attention to in this weekly podcast.
Yeah. And just to add to that as well is that if you like what you hear, here we are also, we've also got a weekly newsletter that you can sign up for at productdataweekly.com. And that, again, that just expands on these insights and strategies. And that can be in your inbox every Thursday.
Awesome.
So what are we talking about today?
Yeah. So I think, today we really wanted to kick things off. Quite in a kind of broad topic, really. So, we were going to kick things off with 5 questions that we think most teams usually avoid asking about their product data, right? So, it's like not where you think it's breaking, it's where it's actually operationally breaking. Because what we see is like most product data problems, they don't show up as data problems, they show up as actual issues, right? So it's like, delayed launches, onboarding taking ages, supplier issues, e-commerce team always asking for fixes to data and that sort of thing. So yeah, we really want to kind of zone in on that. So we're just going to run this. We're going to ask kind of 5 key questions. We're going to have a little chat about each one.
And who do you think this would be relevant to?
Yeah, I mean, primarily, I think this is most relevant to businesses that have large catalogs and, reasonably large supplier bases, right? So in our world, we talk a lot about like distributors and retailers and marketplaces. It's effectively any business that has like a large catalog or large supplier base.
So I guess we're not talking about like, D2C brands that have, under 100 SKUs and 1 or 2 suppliers. That's kind of a lot of this probably won't apply to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. So, let's kick off with a question. So the first question we wanted to talk about was where does product data get manually reformatted today in these sorts of businesses?
Yeah, I mean, what I see is it's a lot about when it's being ingested. So it's kind of a lot of, reformatting columns or fixing the units which suppliers are sending data in, or, PDFs that are coming in from suppliers, and you've literally got somebody sitting there and copying and pasting out of a PDF. And so this, I guess what happens here is that your team is spending like a huge amount of time at that point of entry, because and that's like for one supplier, and then you've got that times 100 of all different types of formats that are coming in. So the problem, I like where we see the main part is that first point is that there's a lot of rework that has to be done then. And then if it's not done then then it can be it then needs to kind of get reformatted, maybe in another system when it's pushed to another system. So yeah, they're probably the 2 that I think about where it happens the most.
Yeah, that point you made about often the problem around reformatting gets pushed downstream. So I think I tend to speak to a lot of like e-commerce heads and operations people that they're the ones inheriting unstructured bad data from upstream in terms of the organization. So things like category management and product management, and it's not that those guys are doing a bad job, it's that they're often are just onboarding it, maybe in incorrect formats. And then a lot of these e-commerce teams have teams of people that are literally reformatting data, or in many cases not, right? Not.
I guess that I was going to just pick up on that a lot of the time it's that they just can't cope with the scale of what they need to do at that ingestion point. I think it's not that they don't want to, it's just that if you're having to do everything manually, it's actually just impossible to do it for
Yeah.
these people. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I remember one of our now customers, but when we were kind of talking about for them, when they were looking at automating a lot of their processes, one of the things that they used in their business case was they actually timed how long it took them to
Mm.
onboard and basically make good a SKU to then be able to push upstream. And it was something like 6 minutes per SKU. And they were onboarding, over 2,000 SKUs per month. And that's like a huge time investment. And that's just literally not doing anything else. That was one full-time person that would have to be doing that every month. Just that one thing, just taking in data, making it good to then be able to send.
Mm.
That's before
Yeah.
doing anything else. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that is, yeah, the size of the problem.
So I mean, I think like fundamentally, we see a lot of business say that's just the reality of product data onboarding and reformatting, but it like clearly it's unsustainable, right? It's like an unsustainable task with catalog growth, data footprint growth, channel growth, gentic AI, all of that stuff that's going in the market. So yeah, and you just can't do all that manually, can you? Eventually, it's so
Without it slowing down things or it costing you more money because you need to
yeah.
increase headcount. Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of leads on to the next question, really. So the second question is like, which attributes are always missing, or we always see are kind of got wrong? Um, I think like just to frame this, like we often see amongst the businesses we talk to the kind of different types of repeat offenders. So it obviously depends what sort of industry vertical you're in, but I think one of the lowest common denominators we see a lot is like basic um, fat filtering,
Mm.
faceting information on websites like brand or materials.
Color. That's always there's
It,
70,
I,
there's
I mean,
70 different variations of one color. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous that after this many years of this topic being discussed, we still brand normalization still seems to be an ongoing issue for most businesses. And just so everyone understands what that means, it means just having one consolidated list of brands without repeating brand, one version capitalized, one version not,
One with
um,
limited at the end followed
multiple of the
by, yeah.
same brands
Yeah.
in a list.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and then like obviously depending on the vertical you're in, we can see different other filters missing or inconsistent, and that sort of thing. Um, the root cause of that is kind of like not having that defined structure in the first place, or not having even not just having a normalized list of values, right? I mean, that's what it fundamentally comes down to. Is like if you're bringing supplier data in and you're not normalizing that data to a defined list of values, you will end up with duplicate entries in your filters. And um
Just I was going to ask, what's the most amount of LOVs you've seen in a business?
we I think there's one customer we work with where we've seen literally. In fact, we did a POC, I think, not that long ago with a big retailer, and it was a marketplace. Actually, it was a marketplace, and I think the brand had 3,500 LOVs in the list. How is someone meant to pick? Yeah. How do you pick the right LOV as a
Yeah.
supplier from that list? It's
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Um, all right. So that, I mean, that, I guess that's a big impact of the actual data, isn't it? You know, it's the, comes back to the same problem. Um, so question 3, how many versions of the same product, often exists across different systems?
Well, just I mean, a few that come to mind that we see. So you've got your ERP, maybe your PIM, e-commerce, marketplaces, other feeds. Like, there's so even if you just look at like a very normal tech stack, you'll see so many different versions. And I would say probably 9 times out of 10, none of them are the same. I don't know if that's yeah. Um, but yeah, I would definitely yeah, that's just what will often see. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we had, that I've seen a lot of examples with, particularly with like bigger complex distributors and retailers where in some cases they've actually tried to solve this problem by implementing a new system of record, so like a PIM or an ERP, but they've never actually fully finished that project. So there's a lot of companies that end up with, in some cases, 2 PIMs, 2 ERPs, 3 access databases. It's basically just a spaghetti mess of sources, right? You know, and in some cases, I actually see them trying to do more projects on top to try and like decommission the, you know, the first 2 projects that never got finished, type of thing. So,
Yeah, or to keep one, one of the things that we often will see as well is like where the product gets created, and then,
mm,
there's often a tussle between different departments on who owns the product creation. So whether it's in the ERP or in the PIM or, wherever it happens to be. And then they try to patch that because they make one decision to satisfy one part of the business. And then, yeah, it creates issues downstream, doesn't it?
yeah, definitely.
And so I
Um,
guess this is about like then picking out what actually happens. So when you've got, one version here, one version there, like where did it become inconsistent?
mm,
Who owns the data? Just
mm.
kind of understanding that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, who owns it? And then what parts of the data footprint actually live in each system. I don't think there's anything wrong with having like multiple places you store your product data. I just think you need to be clear what is being stored in each of those and who governs it. Like you said, product creation, product enrichment on board, you know, there's nothing wrong with that approach. It's more about governance, isn't it? It's the kind of governance overlaying it and not duplicating everything.
Yeah, it's not duplicating and then not having a different version
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere. I think, yeah, that's
I think
that.
that's like a lot of like these projects to try and create that single version of everything often fail because they're just over committing, you know, that's even possible rather than breaking it up into different parts, you know, breaking the product data record up into different parts, maybe, across different systems and things. Um, so I guess that's a good segue onto question 4, really. We've kind of answered question 4. What slows product launches more? Approvers are fixing data. Well, in the case where you've got like 15 systems all doing the same thing, that's probably a big part of why product launches slow down. But even if you don't have 15 systems, personally, I think approvals in the sense of large catalog onboarding and enrichment is the main thing that slows product launches down because because what you're having to deal with upstream sources from suppliers, and then you're having to do a lot of um, approving data from those suppliers, and often those approval cycles take a long time because within the suppliers there's a lot of different teams provisioning that data, and often data is wrong or data is missed or inconsistent, so you get this backwards and forwards. I think um, yeah, we did a webinar a while ago where we looked at, it was something like there were 15 different interactions between supplier and, distributor or retailer or marketplace in terms of actual onboarding. And that, I mean, that just creates a huge backlog of days, right? It's huge time delays and stuff. So that, that's my personal view is approval's a big part. I don't know what you think about the actual data fixing part.
Yeah, I mean, I think uh, I guess it's two different things because I agree that the approval bit, it's the backwards and forwards and the waiting in between and everything that ends up taking a vast
Mm,
amount of time. I think the I think people don't really calculate how much time they spend in fixing data. I think if people actually sat down and timed themselves of like what, because it just becomes this
mm,
automatic thing that they get it, they know what the end target model, so they just do it. So I think that it does slow down things, but because a lot of businesses have actually just been used to always doing it
mm,
this way, they don't see it as such
mm.
a big operational drag, but it
Yeah.
it is. So I think, yeah, I think I agree with you in the point that I think the approvals slow down things more, but I think there is a huge, what do you call it? Like when you just completely
It,
blackout. There's this
yeah,
like blackout thing about how much time people are actually spending
yeah,
fixing
they
data.
kind of bury their head in the sand. Yeah, it's like a bit like, how people always talk about shadow IT.
Mm,
It's like shadow product data operations. No one really wants to know the how dirty and messy it all is.
totally.
Um,
Well, and
yeah,
I think that's the thing. I
absolutely.
think because they are small little fixes that just get done all the time,
Yeah.
nobody kind of adds it up. But I guarantee you that if, there was somebody C-level sitting there and they wanted to know how much money was being wasted on it, it would be a very interesting kind of number.
I I
Yeah,
think there was another customer we worked with years ago where we sat down and looked at kind of their new product introduction process. I think they were using SAP primarily in that part of the process. There's an 85-page PowerPoint document that outlined the 85 steps they needed to go through to get one product into SAP, and it basically involved like uh, bringing some data in, taking it out again, transforming it, bringing it in, taking it out again, putting it in another system, bringing it back to SAP. I mean, it was almost like, but it was like I remember going through it and almost thinking this is like farcical.
mm,
But and then they had a team of about 30 people administering that. So
mental.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing, isn't it? The trough a lot of companies get themselves into with this process and
yeah.
how deep they get into it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And if they and that's the other problem, that if they stop doing it that way, that then often will then delay launches even more. So it's
yeah,
like they just keep doing it and just get
hamster
themselves
wheel
further
stuff,
and
isn't
further.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So then moving on to the last question. So yeah, I mean, this question is, could you onboard 50 new suppliers this year without hiring? And I think just to be clear, it's like, could you onboard 50 new suppliers and their products, like, and their actual products?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, this is about a scale test, isn't it? So it's about kind of, does your current setup can can it cope with more?
Mm,
And I think that's when we get a lot of inbound inquiries when people are kind of at that point where they're just like, it could be that somebody is thinking, why the hell are we spending this much money on it? Or you've got somebody, a solution finder that is there just going, oh my God, I literally can't key in any more data. I can't keep up. So there's like different kind of reasons, but it actually made me think this question about somebody that we were talking to recently, and they had grown their catalog. So from, I think it was like 100,000 SKUs to 200,000 SKUs in 12 months. And that was like, that happens. Like catalogs will often double, businesses do that. But the real issue that they had was that increasing that SKU count, they tripled their supplier base in that time.
mm,
And that's great. But that then meant so many more variations of the product data that was coming in, how it was coming in, all of that, that their team just could not cope anymore. So, and I think it's that kind of thing, that it's understanding that it's like, what impact does that have? Because, you know, they went to the business and said, we need to hire more people. And it's
Yeah.
like, but hang on, like there has to
Yeah.
be another way. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think
I think,
that's
yeah,
it.
I agree with you. Like I think a lot of business, they're kind of like victims of their own success, in that if they're wanting to onboard more suppliers, it means they're generally growing their range and their supply base. So they're probably doing quite well in range expansion. But it's like these teams that are actually responsible for bringing the suppliers on board and their product, they can't keep up, right? It's an impossible process to scale without automation, isn't it?
100%. And that's because it's not just the onboarding, it's the enrichment, it's the validation, it's the you know, the cleaning and standardization. It's all of that that
Yeah.
is part of that to get it to, you know, a
Yeah.
product data that is suitable at
Yeah.
the end. So
I guess the answer is you probably could onboard 50 new suppliers in a year if you actually had a semi-automated, scalable process. Yeah, in order to do that. All right, so yeah, let's wrap up then for this week. So
should we just go over the five
yeah,
questions again? Just do a little
yeah,
summary. So, question 1 was, where does your product data get manually reformatted today? Question 2 is, which attributes are always missing or wrong? Uh, Question 3, how many versions of the same product exist across systems? Question 4, actually, just adding to that, do you know, I think, just where all of what systems you have? Because the amount
mm,
of times we speak to people and they don't know that an actual system exists. That's go and find out. Question 4, what slows product data launches more, approvals or fixing data? And question 5, could you onboard 50 new suppliers this year without hiring? So that is the 5 questions for you to go and find out in your business. And I think, you know, the thing with this is not about, you know, going and pointing fingers and trying to create issues within your organization. It's just about seeing, like, just being really open and honest about where you're not able to scale processes, or where you're wasting a huge amount of time, because there are ways to help you speed up that, with whether it be automation or things like that. But it's, you have to know what the problem is first before
mm.
you can even come up with a solution as to what that looks like. Anything else to add to that?
No, great,
Cool.
and
So
yeah,
just a reminder that if you do want more of this type of content in your inbox every Thursday, you can sign up to productdataweekly.com, and you can also subscribe to this podcast as well, and you'll get updates weekly, just like today.
awesome. Well, it's been great. Yeah, it's been really good. Looking forward to next
Next week.
week's and hearing what everyone thinks. Yeah,
All right.
thanks a
Ciao.
lot. Cheers.